Look, man, this is wild. Every time I sit down and talk with someone who's got a real perspective on history, on spirituality, on culture, I realize how much of the world is connected in ways we don't usually see. And today, when we're talking about this idea of global unity, and specifically Islam's role in that conversation, heavy, it's deep. And honestly, it's something people don't talk about enough because you get this really limited view from media. You get propaganda, you get political spin, all this noise. But when you actually zoom out and look at it from a broader human perspective, you start to see that there's something in this religion, something in the principles of Islam that speaks to people across the planet. And whether you're Muslim or not, you can't deny that it's one of the biggest unifying forces in human civilization. And having a guy like Mel Gibson here breaking it down with me, man, it's fascinating because this dude has seen Hollywood. He's seen fame. He's seen controversy. He's been through the ringer. He's got this wild appreciation for history and faith. So hearing him talk about Islam and unity, it's like you're getting this blend of raw human experience and deep philosophical thought. And I love that because that's what this podcast is all about. It's about digging into stuff people either don't understand or are too afraid to touch. Now, think about this for a second. We live in a world that's more connected than ever before. You've got the internet, you've got global travel, you've got cultures mixing at a rate that's never been seen in human history. At the same time, you've got division, you've got wars, you've got people fighting over identity politics and tribalism. So the big question is, how do we unify? How do we create a world where people from completely different backgrounds can coexist without constantly tearing each other apart? And that's where Islam comes into the picture. For 1,400 years, this religion has had a framework for unity. It's had this system where people of every color, every culture, every background come together under one God, one belief, one structure of prayer, fasting, charity, pilgrimage. And that alone is mind-blowing, man, when you think about it. Muslims in Indonesia, Muslims in Nigeria, Muslims in Bosnia, Muslims in New York, they all pray in the same direction. They all recite the same words. They all fast in the same month. And it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, black or white or peasant. In the mosque, you stand shoulder to shoulder. And that's powerful. That's a system built for unity. And honestly, that's something the modern world is starving for. Now, when Mel and I started digging into this topic, he said something that really stuck with me. He said, when you look at Islam, not through the lens of fear or politics, through the lens of human civilization, you realize it's a glue. It's a force that's been binding people together for centuries. And even though, you've got conflict, you've got wars, human nature, right? Every civilization has that. But the core of Islam is about unity. The core is about peace, submission to one God, and treating other people with dignity. And when you strip away the stereotypes, that's what you see. And I was like, damn, that makes sense. Because think about the Hajj, a pilgrimage in Mecca. Every year, you've got millions of people gathering in the same spot, dressed in the same simple white clothing, doing the same rituals. And you look at that and tell me that's not a picture of human unity. It's insane. It's beautiful. It's primal. It's spiritual. And it shows us what's possible if we drop the ego, drop the division. There's no VIP section in Hajj, man. There's no fast pass. Everyone's equal. A billionaire from Dubai is standing next to a farmer from Bangladesh, and they're both just humans trying to connect with something bigger than themselves. So the question is, how does that role of unity translate into today's fractured world? How do you take that 1,400-year-old system and apply it to modern politics, to technology, to culture wars? And Mel was saying, man, it's about rediscovering those principles because modern people lost in materialism and social media and chasing status. And we forget that there's a deeper way to connect. And Islam offers that not just for Muslims, but as an example to humanity. This is how you structure unity around discipline, faith, and community. And that resonated with me because, look, I'm not Muslim, but I talk to all kinds of people and I respect the hell out of anyone who has a system that makes them stronger, that brings them closer to their family, that gives them peace and resilience. And I've noticed Muslims often have that. They've got this grounded presence because they know who they are. They know why they're here, and they've got this big community backing them. And man, in a time when people are lonely, depressed, addicted, that's a huge lesson we can learn. And Mel went off on this point about how Islam historically preserved knowledge during the Dark Ages in Europe, how Muslim scholars kept science alive, kept philosophy alive, mathematics evolving. We're talking about algebra, which comes from the Arabic word al-jabr. We're talking about algorithms named after the Persian mathematician al-Khwarizmi. We're talking about medical texts that European doctors used for centuries. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad was like the MIT of its time, bringing together scholars from all religions and backgrounds to translate, preserve, and advance human knowledge. And without that, Europe might not have had the Renaissance. And I was like, that's crazy because you don't hear that in school. You don't hear that in mainstream conversations. But it's true. Islam wasn't just a religion, a civilization that pushed humanity forward. It created universities, hospitals, libraries. The first degree granting university in the world was founded by a Muslim woman, Fatima al-Fari, Morocco, in 859 AD. That's over 1,100 years ago, man. While Europe was struggling through feudalism, the Muslim world was building institutions of higher learning that still exist today. That's part of global unity, right? It's not just about prayer. It's about knowledge, trade, culture, art, language. The Islamic Golden Age gave us advancements in astronomy, chemistry, engineering, and medicine that the whole world benefited from. And when you look at it like that, you see Islam has always been part of the global story, always contributing to the collective progress of humanity. So now here's the real kicker. We're in 2025 and the world is more divided than ever. Can Islam still be part of the solution? Mel said yes, but only if people are willing to see past the noise, past the extremism, past the propaganda, and actually look at the core values. And I think that's the biggest challenge, man. The modern world is distracted as hell. We live in these echo chambers where if you're in the West, you're fed a certain narrative about Muslims, and if you're in the East, fed a narrative about the West. And so it's like constant division. But when you sit down and talk human to human, Muslim to Christian to atheist, whatever, you realize people just want peace. People just want meaning. People just want to belong. And that's where Islam's role in global unity makes sense, because it provides that structure, provides that brotherhood and sisterhood, the concept of the Ummah, this global community of believers. It's not just theoretical, it's real. Muslims across the world feel connected to each other in ways that transcend nationality. And if the world could take lessons from that, we'd be in a much better place. Now, here's the thing about Mel. He's not afraid to call out the hypocrisy. He said, look, the West talks about freedom and democracy, but it also divides people along racial, economic, political lines, and Islam, with all its flaws, at least offers a blueprint for unity that transcends those divisions. And I was like, damn, man, that's deep. Because he's right. Modern world preaches unity, but delivers division. And here's this religion from 1400 years ago saying, hey, stand shoulder to shoulder, break bread together, share your wealth through Zakat, help the poor, and don't let ego destroy you. And that's timeless wisdom that could save us today. Zakat, the mandatory charity in Islam, it's not just about feeling good. Economic system that redistributes wealth and prevents hoarding. It's built into the religion that you give 2.5% of your wealth annually to those in need. If every wealthy person in the world did that, imagine the impact on poverty, on inequality, on social cohesion. That's not just spiritual, man. Practical economics designed to keep societies healthy and balanced. And that's where this conversation started blowing my mind, because I started seeing Islam not as this foreign thing, as a potential medicine for a sick world, not in the sense that everyone has to convert, but in the sense that everyone can learn from it. Everyone can see the power of discipline, prayer, charity, community, and global brotherhood, and use that to heal divisions. And man, that's powerful, because if you're looking for a roadmap to unity, it's already here, just about opening our eyes. And when you think about it, the more you look at the way Islam handles human connection, more you realize it's built to strip away the ego that keeps us divided, because ego is the root of all this chaos, right? Whether it's politics or war or even just personal drama, it's always ego. And Islam says, no, you put your head on the ground. You remember that you're just a human being and God is above you. And when you do that 5 times a day, has to humble you, man. That has to cut through the noise and make you remember what matters. And that's something the modern world is missing, because today people worship themselves. the fame, they worship likes on Instagram, they worship money and power. But none of that fills the void. It just makes people more empty, more anxious, more lost. And when I was talking to Mel, he said something that blew me away. He said, "Joe, look at how the West is collapsing under its own weight. Depression is skyrocketing. Suicide rates are insane. Families are breaking apart. Addiction is everywhere. People don't know who they are anymore. And then look at the Muslim world. Despite poverty, despite wars, despite all the external pressure, Muslims still hold on to prayer. They still gather in mosques. They still celebrate Eid together. They still fast in Ramadan, and it gives them resilience. And man, that's a lesson for the whole planet, because unity doesn't start at the top with governments or operations. It starts with the individual. It starts with daily discipline. It starts with families and communities. And Islam has that structure baked in. 5 daily prayers create rhythm and mindfulness. Ramadan creates collective experience and empathy for the hungry. Friday prayers bring the community together weekly. These aren't just religious rituals. They're social technologies designed to keep people connected and grounded. And when I heard him say that, that makes total sense. Because I've noticed that too. I've had Muslims on this podcast before, and every time they talk about their faith, I hear this grounded presence, calmness that comes from knowing their life has purpose. And that purpose is shared by billions of people around the globe. And that's insane, because you think about it. What else unites billions of people like that? Nothing. Not politics, not economics, not even entertainment. It's faith, it's Islam. And if that's not a model for global unity, then what is? Mel started breaking it down historically. He said, look, during the golden age of Islam, you had Jews, Christians, Muslims, all living under one system. Scholars from all backgrounds exchanging knowledge in Baghdad, in Cordoba, in Cairo. It was like this hub of ideas where religion wasn't about division, about collaboration. The concept of people of the book in Islam recognizing Jews and Christians as fellow monotheists created space for coexistence that was pretty advanced for its time. And I thought, man, that's wild. Because when people think of religion today, they think of conflict. But historically, Islam was actually creating bridges. Muslim Spain, Al-Andalus, was one of the most culturally rich and intellectually vibrant places in medieval Europe. Muslims, Jews, Christians worked together in translation houses, turning Greek and Roman texts into Arabic, preserving them for future generations. Multicultural cooperation we claim to want today, and it existed centuries ago under Islamic rule. And when you fast forward to today, the world desperately needs that kind of bridge, because technology has connected us physically, but spiritually, we're more divided than ever. Islam's role in global unity isn't about forcing one system on everyone. It's about showing an example of how faith, discipline, humility can hold billions together and inspire others to find their own ways of building unity. And that's when I realized, man, this conversation isn't just about religion, survival. Because if humanity doesn't figure out how to unite, we're screwed. We've got nukes, we've got AI, we've got climate disasters, we've got economic collapses waiting to happen. Unless we find some common ground, we're just going to tear ourselves apart. And Mel said that's exactly why Islam matters right now, because it has a universal principle. There is no God but God, and that idea alone unites people beyond tribe, beyond nationality, beyond race. And if the modern world took that seriously, even if they didn't adopt the whole religion, respected that concept, the idea of one source, one creator, one humanity, it could shift everything, because then instead of dividing over petty differences, start to see ourselves as part of the same story. Yeah. And that's the medicine, man. That's the cure. And I remember telling Mel, like, dude, crazy that you're saying this, because people don't expect you, a Hollywood guy, to be sitting here talking about Islam's role in global unity. But that's the beauty of it, right? Can come from anywhere. And sometimes it takes someone outside of the religion to see what's really going on, because insiders get caught up in the details. But an outsider can look at the big picture and say, hey, this thing is powerful. And Mel is one of those people. He's been through the Hollywood system. He's seen how fake and shallow it can be. And he's searching for real truth. And he sees something in Islam that could heal humanity. And I vibe with that because I'm always searching too. I want to know how we can live better, how we can be stronger, how we can connect deeper. And when you look at Islam through that lens, it's hard to deny its potential role in uniting people. So here's the kicker. I asked him straight up, do you think Islam could actually be the foundation for global unity in the 21st century? And he said, Joe, it already is. Hasn't been recognized yet. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? And he said, think about it. Islam is already global. It already spans continents, languages, and cultures. Not centralized in one race or one country. It's everywhere, from the deserts of Arabia to the skyscrapers of New York to the villages of Africa to the islands of Southeast Asia. Already a global system. People just don't frame it that way. And when the world starts to recognize that this is the largest existing example of unity, then maybe they'll stop fearing it and start learning from it. There are nearly 2 billion Muslims on this planet, representing every ethnicity, every culture, every economic class. That diversity united under one faith is unprecedented in human history. And I sat back and thought, man, that's heavy, because he's right. Islam isn't an idea waiting to be tested. Idea already proven over centuries, and we just don't talk about it that way. And that's when we got into the psychology of it. Like, why do people fear Islam so much? Why does the media paint it as this big, scary thing? And the answer we came to is simple: division sells. Man, fear sells. If you keep people scared, you can control them. You can sell wars, sell policies, you can sell narratives. And Islam gets demonized because it represents a threat to that system, represents a unity that can't be controlled by corporations or politicians. And that's dangerous to the powers that be. And Mel was like, that's why people need to wake up. The unity Islam offers isn't just spiritual, it's social, economic, political. It's a force that could literally reshape the world if people embraced it. And I thought, damn, maybe that's why it gets attacked so much, because the people in charge don't want that kind of independent unity. They want division because divided people are easier to manipulate. And that realization hit me like a ton of bricks, man, because it makes sense. Look at how people are kept fighting over race, politics, gender, economics, while the real power sits above all of that, pulling strings and making money. And here comes Islam saying, hey, put all that aside. We're all servants of one God. We're all equal in the mosque. We're all brothers and sisters. And that's revolutionary. That's terrifying to people who profit from division. And that's why this conversation matters so much, because if more people start seeing Islam as a tool for global unity instead of a threat, then maybe we'd start moving in a better direction. And man, as we talked, the hours flew by, and I realized this is one of the most important conversations I've had, because it's not just about religion. It's about the future of humanity. It's about whether we can survive as a species without tearing ourselves apart. And if the answer lies partly in lessons from Islam, then we owe it to ourselves to explore that without fear, prejudice, just raw human curiosity and respect. And that's what this podcast is for, man. Bring these conversations out into the open where people can think about them and maybe see the world in a new way.